5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, what's up? It's CK Cards here, Chase Keller. How are y'all doing today? Today we're back with the second episode of the CKTF podcast. CK talks football, Chase Keller talks football. You get the ordeal. An announcement before we get started. We have Andrew here. We waited till the weekend to record. I couldn't get this done. I couldn't get this whole thing done by the middle of the week, so we waited till the weekend. Andrew happened to be available to record, so Andrew's gonna be here. I did happen to open up a 2020 Rookies and Stars blaster box. It did not go well at all. I can't reach my cards from here right now, so we're not gonna show you guys. I'll show you guys at the end of the video. What I pulled. I'm not going to upload it because it was pretty dog. But anyhow, those are my announcements. Andrew, you ready to get into this?
Yep, let's get going.
Alright, so today we have, before we actually get started, a lot of you guys watched the first episode, but you're new for the second episode. If you're not familiar with how this works, we'll have a topic and then we'll have a bonus topic. Today we have the conference championship takeaways as our main topic, and our bonus topic is going to talk about the quarterback offseason for 2021. There's so much rumors flying around right now about which quarterback's going to go where. Watson has so much options. Stafford will have so much options, and then free agents this offseason as well. Actually, I have them right here. Some key free agents like Prescott, Newton, Brissett, Trubisky, all free agents, So that'll be our bonus topic. At the end, we also will run a Q&A. We got 5 questions today. We had 2 last week. This week we got 5. A couple of you guys left your names. I will shout you guys out for what question you put. But either way, now let's get started into this. We're going to start off with the first game, which was the Buccaneers versus the Packers. This game was entertaining, if you ask me. It was nice watching Rodgers and the Packers getting close. They almost came back in that game. They were very, very close. But there was kind of a certain reason why they weren't very close. We'll get to that at the end, or not at the end, through these takeaways. And some of these entertaining events came through Bruce Arians' play calling. You saw that Scotty Miller touchdown in that game at the end of the half. That was insanely risky to call, but it worked, and that's why this was overall very entertaining. Did you find this entertaining?
For sure, yeah. This game was really entertaining between the two veteran quarterbacks. I think it went kind of back and forth, but yeah, I feel like it was just the play calling on both sides that really made this game great, because you had one coach in Bruce Arians who's been here before. He's been in these big games, and he, I think, had the better play calling day than Matt LaFleur did, especially towards the end of the first half where they allowed that huge touchdown.
Yes, that is 100% correct. The field goal decision there at the end was
Yeah.
another was a controversial call, but we're gonna stick on controversy here. That pass interference call, man, there's so much mixed opinions on it. Like, you got a ton of people saying it was the right call because it was clearly a pass interference, but you have other people saying oh, they didn't call it all game, so they shouldn't have called it then. Basically, if you guys didn't watch the game, or if you guys haven't seen the pass interference, Tyler Johnson was running a slant route, and Kevin King was guarding him, and basically Kevin King was tugged on his jersey, and if you ask me, I feel like that made Johnson lose an extra step, which means that pass was catchable, and that was Kevin King, who we'll get to later, that had the pass interference call. Very bad game from Kevin King there, for sure.
Yeah.
But I love controversy. Andrew, you probably do as well.
Uh,
So, what did you think? Was it the right call?
oh, it was definitely the right call. I feel like everyone knows that was the right call. I feel like their main argument was that they weren't doing that call the rest of the game because the Buccaneers were kind of holding the Packers a little bit on some routes. But I think especially in this high stakes of a game, you have to let the corners and the wide receivers play. You can't call pass interference on every single time that a corner holds a wide receiver. So I think when it comes to that crucial situation where it's clear that the corner, Kevin King, was literally tugging on the receiver's shirt, he could not get towards the ball. I think that was a clear pass interference call, and the Buccaneers deserved to win that game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe it was the right call. Um, but I want to get down to why I think it was the right call. You kind of explained some of it for me. Um, it was a clear pass interference. Like Kevin King was tugging on the jersey. Had Johnson lose an extra step, and Johnson could have caught that ball if Kevin King didn't do that, because you saw Kevin King had horrible coverage on that play. Tyler Johnson was going to be wide open. So, but yeah, that's something you need to call at the end of the game. But some other things is that what I found out is the back ump called the play, and he threw the flag. He had the clearest angle of the play, because he's in the back of the field. He can see everything going on with the receivers and the corners, and the ump is honestly the ref who can see pass interference easiest. And I'm honestly pretty sure that that's the ref who calls pass interference the most. So the back ump did throw the flag, and a lot of people are saying, but it came in very late. Like, yeah, you look at it, the ump was 20 yards behind the play. So first, he had to run about 15 yards. Then he had to
Yeah,
throw the flag directly where the pass interference occurred. So I personally eliminate the fact that it was called late, because he was way back downfield and he needed to get the flag where the call was, or where it occurred. And then obviously the statement where they didn't call it all game, that's a factual statement. But despite the facts, that was an obvious pass interference call, and honestly, it would have been controversial both ways, because you're like, if they didn't call pass interference, a bunch of people would have criticized, like, that was pass interference, like, where's the flag? And then now that it is pass interference, everyone's like, oh, they didn't call it all game. So,
yeah,
but overall, personally to me, that was the right call. And when a call is that obvious, you have to call it. It came down to the wire, and when you're down the wire, you need to make the right calls, and there you go. Um, we were talking about Kevin. I was talking about how we were going to get to Kevin King later. We're getting to Kevin King now. The Packers, to me personally, need to move on from him. Do you agree?
100%. If not move on from him, at least bench him. Like, he should not be their corner number two. They got to sign somebody else in the offseason because it's clear that when the playoffs come around, Kevin King cannot match up with some of these top receivers.
That is very true. He allowed 69% of his targets to be caught as a cornerback too. So when I say move on, I could understand if they re-sign him to a low contract and bench him, but with his contract running up, you have better options to put at cornerback too. Like, for example, I think I put down three options. Um, and there's some of them are different. Um, One of them is kind of off, but we'll go with it. The first one is William Jackson from Cincinnati. Former what was he? He was a first round pick, right?
Yeah, he was. I think
So,
so.
um, yeah, so he had an amazing year two campaign. And even in 2020, he had a stretch where I think it was almost 10 weeks, where he allowed only 39% of his targets to be caught. He didn't allow a single touchdown, and he had 6 pass breakups. Um, Also speaking, the Bengals, yes, they can re-sign William Jackson, but they've already put a lot of money on the line with Trey Waynes. So I don't know if they're gonna want to bring William Jackson back for the same amount of money as they have Waynes for. Um, so I could see the Packers signing William Jackson, but it's a risky move because it's the best option, but he's also the most expensive. So it's going to be tough to see what they do with him. Then we got Chidobe Awuzie, who is a cheaper option at cornerback too, And the reason I know a bit about Chidobe Awuzie is because the Broncos have, like, they might be a target for Awuzie as well. And Broncos fan right here, can't tell by the two jerseys in the back, but um, he's a speedy corner. He had a very disappointing 2020 season though, which sucks because he was their starting corner, and but he his year was very disappointing. One of the main reasons why the Cowboys defense was not good because there was the reason that they didn't really have a secondary is because they invested a lot in veteran guys like what was it, Everson Griffin got signed on, Tari Poe was a signing. They had a lot of veteran signings there. Um, so they didn't really pay much attention to the secondary. So Chidobe Awuzie is really a cornerback too. He's not a cornerback one, but he's a young corner, so there you go. And then Desmond King. The only problem with this is that he's a slot corner, but he might be able to play on the outside at cornerback too in replacement of Kevin King. Who knows? But he had a bad year in 2020, so his price is going to go down. It's going to be cheaper. Um, he's quick. Um, and it's an unlikely move because the Titans are likely to re-sign him, but it is possible, so I still have to bring it up. Um, what do you think?
I think out of those three, I would definitely go with William Jackson, especially if the Packers are trying to compete for another Super Bowl next season. William Jackson is not only was he the best last year, but I mean the Packers. I don't think they need a slot corner as much, and Desmond King's a pure slot. Plus, he was not that good last year, and as you said, Chidobe Awuzie was not good last year. He was also injured, so I think William Jackson is definitely the best option. He's going to be expensive, but the Packers need to try to compete for a Super Bowl right now with Aaron Rodgers in his prime. Well, it's obviously later in his prime, but he still has. He's going to win the MVP this year. He can do that similar production next year, and if they can get another good corner next to Alexander, I think they really can compete for a Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, they can. Jackson is probably going to get somewhere on the north side of 13 million a year next year. So again, expensive corner, but he's the best. He is the best option. Now, no, we're not overreacting to because Kevin King, yes, he might have had a horrendous conference game right there. But seriously, like they need to replace Kevin King if they want to make it further than the conference games, because Kevin King's just not going to cut it there. Um, Final takeaway for the Packers, though. We were talking about the conference game luck of Aaron Rodgers in the last episode. It stayed there. He is now 1-4 in conference games. Dang, that is huge. Now obviously his first ever time going to the NFC Championship. Um, he won and would end up winning the Super Bowl against the Steelers. Yeah, it was the Steelers. I don't know why I almost said a different team, but it's like that. Then that's where it all collapsed. They made it in 2014 when that infamous Seahawks vs Packers game happened. Then it came to 2016 season where they played the Falcons and they got blown out. And then it came to last year where it came to the Niners and the Niners blew them out. Which I don't. The Rodgers is not good against the Niners, man. He's got 3 playoff losses against the Niners, all in the last ever since the Super Bowl. Yeah, ever since the Super Bowl, he has 3 playoff losses against the Niners. Um, but Rodgers, on the other hand, has an interesting stat line when it comes to conference games. 1,137 passing yards, with a 66.3 completion percentage. 9 touchdowns, 6 picks. That's a good stat line, but not the Rodgers we know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so like it's just I'm stuck. I'm kind of stuck on whether you want to call these games unlucky or to just say he's bad in conference game or not bad, just to say he's not himself in conference games. So what do you think it's? Do you really think Rodgers is unlucky or is he just not good in conference games?
I think for a lot of them, the Packers have just been outmatched this year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have the much better roster than the Green Bay Packers, and then you could say the same about the San Francisco 49ers last year, and even the Falcons before that. So Rodgers definitely isn't Aaron Rodgers per se in the NFC Championship games, and his only win in the NFC Championship was probably his worst game, which was the first one he played in.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's unlucky for Aaron Rodgers. I do think the Packers just haven't done a great job building around him and giving him some weapons, especially in this recent game against the Buccaneers. If he had a great wide receiver too, or if their defense had another great corner, I think they could have won this game because they really were that close. So I don't know if it's more unluckiness, but I feel like the Packers just need to get those final pieces around Aaron Rodgers to help build a Super Bowl team.
Yeah. As we said earlier, cornerback two, they need one if they want to make it further. Slot receiver is another gap that they might need to fill. So you got a couple gaps that you need to fill, but all of them don't need to be filled. But again, at the same time, if Rodgers can play better in the conference games, or for say play how he normally plays in the conference games, they could move on. But other than that, I agree. They need to build around Rodgers. I don't particularly think he's unlucky. He just has not been good, well, okay, he's been good, but as you said, he's been outmatched. So
Yeah,
that's tough for Rodgers. So we'll see how they do next year, though. We actually have a question to answer about the Packers in the Q&A. But other than that, on to Tom Brady. Man, another Super Bowl. Make that 10 for Brady. Um,
10 for.
Next highest quarterback, John Elway, 5 Super Bowls.
Wow.
That's crazy. So when it comes to Tom Brady, when it comes to his Super Bowls, like you saw, he wasn't the normal Tom Brady we see this year, but he still ended up making it to the Super Bowl. So do we think this Tom Brady thing is he still just really good in the playoffs and he just happens to move on? Or is he just or did he just have a dominant team around him to help him?
I'd say this year specifically, it was more of his team, but if we're looking at his entire career as a whole, it's definitely been Tom Brady who's just been amazing in the playoffs. Even this year, he was amazing in the playoffs until those 3 interceptions against the Packers. But he still did what he needed to do to win, and that's really been what his whole career thing has been, is just doing just enough to win football games. He's had some dominant performances in the playoffs, but this year especially, I do think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he chose the Buccaneers because he saw the talent on this roster and he knew that if he just went to this team and played good quarterback play, top 10 quarterback play, they would easily be a Super Bowl team. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, you are correct on that. Now I do have something about Mahomes written down. I think we're just gonna go over that now. Um, I actually did write down on my paper. If I'm being honest, I don't think there will be a quarterback to make 10 Super Bowls in their career while I'm still alive and I'm only 16 years old. Now, Mahomes, um, I think he makes like 7 or 8 max. When it comes to Mahomes, his best year was his rookie year. He hasn't made much progression, but at the same time, like that rookie year was really, really, or his first year starting was really good. Um, so how many times do we see quarterbacks have their best season in their rookie year and then excel to become a like a quarterback in the Hall of Fame? We don't see that often when it comes to quarterbacks who peak their rookie year, which obviously Mahomes can peak like in upcoming years. Like he can have a better year than his first year starting, but we haven't seen any progression really from him. He also had 16 dropped interceptions this year. If he keeps that up, he will not progress anymore. And I could think you would agree with that. Even though I know you think that Mahomes is probably going to catch Brady in the GOAT conversation, and or if not, it will be close. But um, I don't think he will if he keeps up his play as he did this season. Like he had what? How much picks did he have this year?
I mean, it wasn't too many. I think it was only probably 8, 7,
It was
something around.
wait, it was less than that, I think, but like 16 drop pick is just not. You just can't have that.
Mm.
Now we'll get to the whole defense, but we gotta talk about this edge rush, man. Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaquille Barrett, man. They are so good. Um, yeah, again, being a Broncos fan, man, it sucks knowing that we don't have Shaq Barrett, but I'm glad he didn't waste his career in Denver. I'm glad he's now making it to the Super Bowl and he's making a huge impact in the NFL right now. But these guys combined for 5 sacks in the NFC Championship. Against one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Yes, they didn't have Bakhtiari, but that still doesn't make them one of the like a bad O line and at all. They're still really good. They have one of the best guards in the league. They have debatably the best center in the league when it comes to 2020. So, but these guys have been deadly all year. 22.5 sacks from the season. These guys have been known as one of the best duos, and it clearly showed that they might be a top 3 edge rushing duo, and that showed on Sunday. Um, so what do you think of this edge rush?
I think they can do it again. I think they can do it again in the Super Bowl because we looked at the main reason they were so good. Obviously, no Bakhtiari for the Packers. But that's the same with the Chiefs. They don't have Mitchell Schwartz. So the Packers'
They won't
interior
have Eric Fisher as well. He
or
tore
Eric
his
Fisher.
Achilles.
Yeah, so that's both their starting tackles out. Uh, when you look at that pass rush, they were benefiting off of backup tackle play, which was still decent for the Packers, and it's going to be decent for the Chiefs as well. But if you're facing a dominant edge rush like these two, I think these two are going to be the X factor in the Super Bowl. The Packers had a great interior O line, and that kind of held back the Ndamukong Suh and their interior pass rush with Vita Vea as well. But we saw these two edge rushers just completely take over the game, and I think if they can do anything with what they did against the Packers, that they could definitely steal the Super Bowl from the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're probably a top 3 edge duo in the NFL this past season.
Yeah, yeah, just yeah. They are very, very dominant and without their 2 starting tackles. I mean, yeah, you have Mike Remmers, who's been pretty good this year, but is he going to hold up against the edge duo? We'll see.
I don't
Um,
know.
but that's not all this defense has to offer. That linebacker duo might be the best in the league. Um, Devin White, Levante David, both outstanding players. Devin White's been a good pass rusher for the inside linebackers position. He has amazing tackling abilities. He was the 3rd highest in solo tackles this year. Um,
Yep.
while he could use some help in coverage, um, that's what Levante David is there for. He is the coverage linebacker of the duo. Um, he is one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL. Do you agree with that?
100%. I think he's probably top 3 with Fred Warner and Eric Kendricks for the best coverage linebackers. And that's what makes this duo so great is that they cover each other's weaknesses. Like, Devin White is easily one of the best tackling and pass rushing linebackers in the entire NFL, which is not Levante David's strong suit, but that's fine because he's one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL. So I agree with that.
Yeah. Just to get some stats out of the way, Levante David, 12th most solo tackles. And against the Packers, that duo had 19 tackles, and 15 of them came from Devin White. And
Wow.
David also had a pass deflection as well in that game. We saw in that red zone sequence where Adams had 3 consecutive red zone targets, and he didn't get any of them. But either way, finally, we got to get to how good this Bucks team can be. Um, this team can definitely be something special. Their running back core is amazing, um, and they don't have that much holes. They can if they can fill the if they can fill their 2 main gaps, this will be one of the best teams, if not like yeah, one of the best teams in the NFL, and they might be a consistent Super Bowl contender. Um, but their holes consist of basically long-term quarterback and defensive line. Um, long-term quarterback. Obviously, Brady's not going to be there in the long term. Obviously, he's what 43, so he's not really going to be there. Um, Now, if you have their answers at quarterback, if my prediction goes right for next year, um, there could be really any guy who like deserves to have a starting spot in the NFL. They could for sure, or even like a great backup spot, they could for sure succeed with this team. Um, Evans, Godwin, Howard, Jones, Brait, Fournette. I'm not going to include Gronk because he'll probably be gone when Brady leaves. But when it comes to these guys, these quarterbacks that they can have in the future, I wrote down Marcus Mariota and Baker Mayfield were two possibilities. And honestly, if you look at that, both of them can succeed on that team. Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to be great, but that offense could definitely succeed with that offense. Like all those targets are just insanely good. For the D line, though, you have Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea, and Will Golston. Going from left to right, you have Sue, who's probably going to retire when Brady and Gronk retire. Um, Sue is a good asset, but we don't know how long he's going to be lasting now, so he's just a huge question mark. You also have Vita Vea, who honestly top five defensive tackle in the future. He's outstanding. He's really good. He played very well this year. Um, when he was healthy. Um, and he might become a top defensive tackle. As I said, he might be an All-Pro soon
For sure.
because Donald's getting older. Vea's just Vea's leaning into his prime. There you go. Um, Finally, you have Golston. He's an under-average starter. He's going into the final year of his contract, and the Bucks might not keep him unless he takes a good pay cut. He will also be 30 by the time free agency rolls around next year. So if they can find a consistent defensive line, that team will be good. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, something I know about Bruce Arians as a Cardinals fan is that he's amazing at finding cheap talent, especially on the D line. I remember that we had quite a few different guys that you really didn't know who they were before the season, but then they kind of show out for our defensive line during the season. So although D line is a weakness for the Buccaneers, I think with Vita Vea there in the long term, most likely, I think if they can just find two or three cheaper guys that will definitely produce. And what really helps production from those D linemen is having good D linemen around them, right? And they have Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett. I don't know how long both of those guys are going to stay with the Buccaneers, but if you can keep both of those guys around for another year or a few years, I think if you can just get some average, maybe above average D linemen, they can definitely produce under this team.
I do agree with that. Now, when we're coming to the round of thoughts on the conference games, I think it was an entertaining game for sure. Again, as I said earlier, those big plays and that play calling from Arians just made this game that much more entertaining. Packers do have gaps they need to fill. It showed in that game, but if they want to continue to be NFC conference round exits, there you go. Keep that team you have. But if they want to contend for a Super Bowl, they're going to need to fill some gaps. And to me, that was a fair game. Um, some calls didn't go in the Packers' way, obviously, but some didn't even go in the Bucks' way. And what a lot of people fail to understand is that you talk about that hold on what was it, Murphy Bunting for the interception. He held Lazard, but on that same play, Turner, the Packers' offensive tackle, had back-to-back false starts that were uncalled.
Wow.
So that I believe that was fair. But anyway, what are your rounded thoughts on this game?
I mean, anyone that's really complaining about the penalties, they just don't really have much to talk here because the Green Bay Packers are probably the most benefited team from penalties overall. And even in this past game, like it wasn't overwhelmingly favoring the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You could argue some of the calls that weren't for like some pass interference and stuff, but as I said earlier, like the refs are gonna let the corners play, especially in this high stakes of a game. So overall, I think the Green Bay Packers need to do a better job of building around Aaron Rodgers. They haven't done that so far. We'll see if they do it next year or if they decide to change nothing and probably lose in the conference championship again.
Yeah. Um, that's fair. That was the Packers Bucks right there. That one whole game took just under that took like 25 minutes. On to the Bills Chiefs. We saw another interesting game here. We saw the Chiefs offense look absolutely unstoppable. Gave us visions for the future with Mahomes and Reed. We also saw Allen struggle a bit, which was kind of rare when it came to the 2020 season. And I was shocked to see this game unfold just with how kind of lopsided it really was. Either way, congratulations to the Chiefs, even though I don't want them in the Super Bowl. Do I have to say why again? But they're the best team in the AFC. I can't be complaining. But either way, who's gonna stop the Chiefs is where we're gonna go to first. I touched on this earlier, but I want to talk about who's gonna stop Mahomes and Reed. Now I want you to start with this. When it comes to Mahomes and Reed, when it comes to the future, who's gonna stop them?
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know if anyone's going to stop the Chiefs in the future. Obviously, that's a little bit. I mean, it's probably false. There's definitely going to be somebody that's going to beat the Chiefs. But when Patrick Mahomes has struggled, it's been mostly because of a good pass rush. So we need a team that could possibly get a great dominant pass rush in the AFC or in the AFC West specifically. That if they want any chance of consistently stopping the Chiefs in the future, I don't know exactly who that's going to be yet. I think the Chargers have done a decent job with Joey Bosa, but they definitely need another pass rusher for the future. Um, the Bills just aren't going to be the team that's going to stop them unless they can find a great edge rusher, especially someone that's younger. Their top edge rushers just aren't. They're all old and they're not really amazing edge rushers. If you want to stop the Chiefs, you need to force pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know who's going to do that in the future yet, but hopefully someone will.
Yeah, obviously, you know me, don't want to see the Chiefs really succeed. Obviously they're going to, but I hope someone can stop them. I really do. Um, and if I'm being honest, I was wrong in the last episode when I was talking about how the Bills currently had the best offense, but clearly in that game we saw it was the Chiefs. Um, but currently I can't see any defenses stopping Mahomes and company, but and the only team this whole season to drop or to allow to bring the Chiefs down to less than 20 points. Do you know which team that was?
Uh, I don't. Who was
It
it?
was the Atlanta Falcons were the only team to hold the
Really?
Chiefs under 20 points, and that was it was like weeks. It was either 15 or 16.
Yeah, it
Um,
was late.
but that was when the Falcons defense was good, to be fair. But like, dang, like you would not think the Falcons would be the only team to do that. But as I said earlier, Mahomes' best year is still his rookie year. Um, teams will find out ways to limit him. Um, and we've seen this before with quarterbacks peaking at a very young age. We saw this in Cam Newton. We saw this in Lamar Jackson, and we saw this in Kurt Warner. Even now, Kurt Warner obviously came back, but like you saw like how bad he was for a few years, and he peaked his first year starting. So tough for him, but peaking when you're younger doesn't really help, and the statistics do show that. But um, onto a positive topic about the Chiefs, though. I'm still kind of shit talking the Chiefs a bit too much. We got to talk about their weapons. They're very very lethal. These you have Tyreek Hill, one of the best receivers in the league, and McCole Hardman, another very fast receiver. You have Travis Kelce at the tight end position, the best tight end in the league, and then you also have a lot of depth at receiver. You have Watkins, you have Robinson, you have I can't think of that guy's name. But I was gonna say Hardman as well, but I already mentioned him. But this just gives the Chiefs too much weapons. Now, what I mean by too much weapons is that sooner or later they're gonna get some contracts elsewhere that are higher than what the Chiefs have to offer up, because obviously you have that huge deal that Mahomes signed with the Chiefs. They're gonna be very low on cap, so unless these guys take cuts to play with the Chiefs, and play with Mahomes at quarterback. These guys are going to be leaving, but these targets are exchangeable, to be fair, because Mahomes can work with a lot of different receivers, and we see that in how he can work with speedy receivers, how he can work with elusive and kind of slower receivers. And we've obviously seen him. Like, who knew who Demarcus Robinson was until last season?
True.
Nobody. But he made Robinson successful as well. But and it's not a reach to say guys like Watkins and Robinson are playing at the level they're playing at because they have Mahomes at quarterback. So what do you think on that?
I think the Chiefs are definitely gonna. They're not gonna be able to pay everybody because, especially with that Mahomes and Chris Jones contract. But I think if you doubt the Chiefs' ability to draft just pure wide receiver speed demons in the draft, then you're kind of crazy because we've seen the Chiefs do this before where they've just gotten guys kind of out of nowhere. And if you can put them on a deep pattern with Patrick Mahomes' arm, there's a good chance they get a 50-yard touchdown, even if they're not the greatest receiver in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Chiefs are probably going to move on from some of their weapons. Like Sammy Watkins is not going to be a Chief for that much longer, but if they can keep Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey, which are their two main weapons, and they kind of run their offense through those two guys, if you can keep those two while bringing in some other young guys, keeping maybe McCole Hardman and drafting some guys, I think their offense will still remain just as good as it was this past season.
I did say before the season that this receiver core is really fast. Watkins isn't even that slow either. He's he's actually like his speed is kind of underrated if you ask me. He runs like a 4.4. So
Wow.
he's a speedy receiver. Um, I don't know about Robinson, but I do know that Watkins does have the speed there. But um, yeah, the weapons, a lot of weapons. Um, now we have to talk about that front seven on Sunday, man. 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 7 QB hits. All those just came from the front seven. Um, the Bills' blocking was maybe even top 10 last year. Um, but that front seven just threw them off. Constant blitzes led to constant pressures, forcing Allen to throw, where he kind of forced it a bit too much. He tried to force the ball towards Diggs and Beasley on many occasions. But and those 20 incompletions that he had were for sure mainly because he had to throw the ball. Or else he was going to go down. So that secondary is obviously good too, but that front seven just showed off. Would you agree?
For sure. I mean, Chris Jones, man, he was. I'm not going to choose him as the most valuable player of the game because of what Mahomes and Kelsey and Tyreek Hill did on offense, but defensively, he completely wrecked the Bills' game plan. Chris Jones, he didn't have a great season in the regular season, but I think he was just saving his energy for the playoffs because he absolutely dominated this playoff game. They have some great other players on their D line with Frank Clark, but I think it's mostly the Chris Jones show for the Chiefs defense, and he really proved it this past game.
Yeah, I agree. Chris Jones was very valuable in that game, and obviously the rest of the guys were as well. We saw some very guys who I honestly never really heard of. We even saw some of them record stats, and even they were playing lethal. So it was either that front seven was outstanding, or that Bills offensive line just had a bad game, just like the Packers one. But on to the Bills part of it now. Now we got to talk about Josh Allen. He struggled in that game for sure. Um, his decision making under pressure needs to improve, and that's honestly the main thing he needs to improve on. He's also struggled to find the open guy in a lot of cases. An example is his lone interception that he had, where it was deflected right into Rashad Fenn's hands, and he picked it off. But now, if Allen threw the ball as fast as he did to John Brown, Cole Beasley would have gotten like a 4 or 5 yard catch. Something like that. But he forced it to Brown, who had a guy right in front of him, where the guy, I forgot which corner it was, but the guy deflected it right into Fenn's hands, and Fenn picked it. Now, I would say Josh Allen isn't elite yet. Now, he looked elite in the regular season. He looked sort of elite in the first playoff games, but he is not elite yet. He needs to make great plays and play very well in these games if he wants to be considered elite. Um, but if we're talking about in a couple years, he may become an MVP. He may become the MVP. He might be an MVP, but we'll see how that goes. His sophomore to junior jump is something like the amount that he jumped was insane, and we rarely see that. So that's Josh Allen. What do you think about Josh Allen?
I'm not going to be too critical about Josh Allen because last year I was kind of critical of him and how he didn't really develop. I think completely came out of nowhere and proved me wrong on that one.
We
So
got
I'm
to
not going to.
talk about that.
Yeah. So I mean, he had a bad game for sure, but he had constant pressure in his face, and really the Chiefs were able to take away some of his good weapons out of the game. The Chiefs secondary showed up. The Chiefs D line showed up. I don't want to be too critical on Josh Allen. I think if he can do what he did last year, but he just needs to improve in the postseason. Uh, he wasn't great in any of the three postseason games, especially not this last one. If the Chiefs want to become a true Super Bowl team, they're going to need him to improve. They're going to need their offensive line to improve, and maybe they need another weapon because obviously Stephon Diggs is incredible. But outside of him, you really just got Cole Beasley, John Brown. Two guys are pretty inconsistent, and Cole Beasley is kind of old as well. So I think
Mhm.
with Josh Allen, uh, I'm not going to be too critical, but I do think he needs to make the next step next season, and the Bills need him to do that if they want to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Allen in the postseason needs to improve. I agree on that. But other than that, really, Allen was really good in the regular season, which is why I said I could see him becoming elite in a couple years. But we just didn't see him show up in this game. Definitely could have showed up and made himself a bigger presence, but he obviously didn't do that. Um, Now we get to the holes. Now I want to ask you a question here. When it comes to these three things, which which do you think the Bills need to fill more? The running back position, the run defense, or the tight end coverage?
Uh, I would say I think the Bills need to fill. I'm gonna say their run defense the most, or maybe their tight end coverage actually. Uh, I do think their running game is it's probably it's their biggest offensive weakness, but when you consider how good their passing game is, I wouldn't say it's as big of an overall weakness as their defense. So I think if they can improve their tight end coverage, then that would overall just help their entire defense, especially in the middle of the field. I like the linebackers they have there, but they just have not been great covering tight ends, and especially against Travis Kelsey this past week, would happen and exactly happened right. So I think that's probably their biggest weakness on their team. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all three of the rest this offseason.
All right. Yeah, I think that is also the biggest hole they need to fill. They were bottom three team in tight end covers this year. Kelsey absolutely burned the Bills in that game. And if they want to make the Super Bowl, when you're competing against guys like Travis Kelsey and Darren Waller in the AFC, you need to cover the tight end. Because if you can't cover the tight end, you are going to get fucked. But that's I don't know. If Kelsey continues his success, it might just be Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But um, when it comes to what do you think? Then what do you think? Run defense or running back needs to be filled more?
Uh, I would say spend more draft capital or spend more money, I guess, on run defense because that's like a more expensive thing. I think if the running back position, if they can just improve interior blocking, I think their running game will get better. But yeah, Devin Singletary, he had a great rookie season yards per carry wise. He had a big step down this season. So I think you either choose someone in the middle rounds of the draft to replace him, or you just stay with Devin Singletary. So I think after that, I'd say you spend the most on run defense.
Yeah, we have the same exact rankings here. My second is also run defense. When it comes to stats in that game, they allowed 2 rushing touchdowns. They also let Daryl Williams have 13 carries for 52 yards. Not Damian Williams, Daryl Williams. But They were bottom 10 in yards per carry in the regular season. As you said, they need to spend a lot more time fixing that run defense. And third is running back. What do you think about the running back hole they need to fill?
Like I said earlier, I think I don't know if Devin Singletary or Zach Moss are going to take that step to be an elite running back. So I think if you do find someone that you really like in the draft, I think you do take them in like the third round, maybe the second round at most. But you don't spend a first round pick on a running back, especially when you have more pressing needs on your team. So I think you either run it back with those same guys or you get someone in the second or third round to replace them.
Yeah, unless they really do trust Moss. I don't know why they would trust Singletary after that sophomore year, but if they really do trust Moss, I would say I would be fine with that. But if they don't, I would say draft the running back high. Like you got a good amount of options in this draft. Um, in that game, that run team had 3.6 yards a carry. Um, and it seems as if it really is the final hole to fill the offensive gaps and have a complete offense. So this is running out very, very quickly. Um, we might adjust the bonus topic a bit, but we do have just one more takeaway. This is going to be a quick one. Um, the Bills need to finish in the red zone, man. They partially and maybe majority lost this game in the red zone. They scored 2 touchdowns, but they also kicked 4 field goals.
Yeah.
So kicking 4 field goals to me won't cut it in the playoffs, and the Bills need to capitalize in the red zone. What do you think?
Oh yeah, it won't cut it in the playoffs, and especially won't cut it against the Kansas City Chiefs, who you know are going to score 35 plus points a game. You cannot kick field goals, especially against them. I think it ties in with their running back weakness. If you can run the ball, then you'll score way more points in the red zone. So I think that kind of ties in together, and also just Josh Allen's inconsistencies in the playoffs are kind of what held them back in this game, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, the red zone could have been a lot better for sure, but again, as I said, that was a quick takeaway. We're running in on about 48 minutes here with the podcast already, so we're going to get to the bonus topic here, just kind of run through it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mention who I believe is going to go where, and you're going to do your reactions just like you did last week with um the draft ones, or with the
Mm-hmm.
draft mock draft. What am I saying? The quarterback rankings in the 2021 draft. Okay, speaking of the draft, honestly smart that I kind of stuttered there because speaking of the draft, we're gonna start off with the draft picks. I'm just gonna go off with the first 5 quarterbacks, because these 5 quarterbacks are really gonna be the only ones who we see get drafted sort of high. So here we go. Starting off first, Trevor Lawrence, pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Number 2 was tough. I think Zach Wilson is the better pick here, but I think they're just gonna take Justin Fields. He's honestly to me he's the safer option. Um, and they might take him, even though I think Zach Wilson is better. But Justin Fields is the safer option, so I think the Jets are going to take him. Um, which brings Zach Wilson to Atlanta to play backup behind, um, Matt Ryan for a bit. And again, it's hard to decide if I think the Falcons will take a quarterback in this draft. I personally think they do, because what other gaps do they have? They have corner, which
Yeah.
are you going to take Certain or Farley at 4?
No.
Yeah.
You,
Other than that, they don't really have much big holes that and if they do, they shouldn't be taken that high. So I think they do take a quarterback, which I understand if they don't, but I think they do. Um, Lions take Mac Jones just because he's ranked high on literally every draft board in the NFL. Um, so I think Mac Jones goes to Detroit. Um, I think my predictions for the Lions this year, they trade away big cap hits, Trey Flowers, and then one of their corners like Coleman and Trufant, and then they work on a full rebuild. And Mac Jones or Trey Lance will work here at number 7. And finally, I have the Bears. What is that? They are 20th overall. I have them taking Trey Lance. Another tough one, but the Bears do need the Bears do need a QB, and I think it is smart if they draft one or get Watson. One of the two would do work. But I don't think they will get Watson, so that's why I have them drafting Lance. Um, Lance is the next best quarterback available, unless you believe that Trask or Jamie Newman are going to go there to the Bears in the first round. Which no, they're not going to be picked in the first round. Trey Lance is going to go there. Do you agree with those draft picks?
I mean, not really. I agree with the Trevor Lawrence one. Obviously, I do think that Zach Wilson is the much better quarterback than Justin Fields. If the Jets are smart at all, they would take Zach Wilson over Justin Fields. Either that or trade for Deshaun Watson is possible. So I do think that Fields and Wilson are going to be two top 5, top 10 picks. Probably going to Atlanta. I think Atlanta takes whichever one the Jets don't take. So I actually have Atlanta taking Justin Fields and the Jets taking Zach Wilson. Um, the Lions, they're going through a full rebuild, so I actually have really no idea who they're going to take. I think Trey Lance is the better quarterback than Mac Jones. So if we were going between those two, I would give them Trey Lance. And then I honestly don't know if the Bears are going to draft a quarterback this year. I think they do need offensive tackle and they need wide receiver help a lot. So I think they might go with one of those two positions. I kind of see them going with Mac Jones, but overall, I'd probably say they should draft something else.
Okay, like I do think that the other guys are possible. Like Jets could definitely take Wilson, Lions could definitely take Lance, but I feel that there's just those are safer picks to take Fields and Jones. Like Fields is safer because he's shown 2 full years of success at Ohio State. And Mac Jones is safer because Trey Lance played 1 year in the FCS. Yes, I believe Trey Lance is a better quarterback. I do believe Zach Wilson will be the better quarterback. But just overall, it just comes down to which one's the safer pick. Those guys are all close, so just got to go with the safer ones there. Next, we're going to talk about the trades. Oh boy. This is gonna be good. You got Watson. You have Tua who might get traded if the Dolphins go for Watson. You have Sam Darnold. You have Matt Stafford. Crazy amount of quarterbacks that can be traded this offseason. Starting off with Deshaun and Tua, I believe the Dolphins pick up Watson. I believe the Texans take Tua. Um, I feel the Dolphins are the more complete team between the Jets and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins have a lot of draft capital. I could definitely see Tua going to the Texans and both of their firsts as well for Watson. And I feel that they pick Watson and that team improves to basically a confirmed playoff team. So I could definitely see that happening. 49ers was tough for me. I originally had Stafford, then I switched him. I originally had Jimmy G getting traded. I switched him, and now I have Jimmy G staying with the Niners, but the Niners also trade for Sam Darnold. I feel that Niners team is very developmental. And Darnold does still have good potential. He played behind one of the worst teams in the NFL for the first couple years of his career. And if he can play for a team that's very developmental, like the 49ers, he could become a true starting quarterback. Might not be good, but I could see him becoming a starting quarterback. Then I have the Colts getting Stafford. When I heard the owner Jim Irsay say that they needed veteran vision at quarterback, that I thought Stafford fits that description perfectly. And just to put this off to the side, I think Pittman could become a great receiver with Stafford at QB. I think that Stafford could be, again, just like I said before, could be that team to make the Colts a confirmed playoff team. But those are all the trades I got.
Yep. I would say Matt Stafford, I think, is confirmed to go. I think I'd say the Colts or the 49ers. And as a Cardinals fan, I really hope he goes to the Colts. But for the 49ers, I think they really just need a veteran presence at QB, someone better than Jimmy Garoppolo, who's probably like an average quarterback. if they can get a top 10 quarterback like Matt Stafford, that could really make them a Super Bowl contender again, like they were not this past season, but the year before that. And then with the Colts, I do think it would be extremely smart to trade for Matt Stafford. I don't know if they're going to do it, but there's no way they get Deshaun Watson, especially with the Texans in that division. There's no chance the Texans give him to a division rival. I think for Deshaun Watson, I think he's got to go to either the Jets or Dolphins because they're really the only teams with the draft capital to get him. I think it all depends on whether what Houston thinks on Tua Tagovailoa or Tungavailoa. If they like him as a prospect, then I think they do make the trade with the Dolphins. But I think the Jets overall have the better assets to give Houston for Deshaun Watson. So I think he's probably going to go to the Jets. But I could see him going to either one. And yeah,
Oh, okay. Now I mentioned all of the, or I didn't mention all the. I did actually. I mentioned all the free agents at the beginning of the episode, all the big ones, and I only have one of them either going to a different team or going to a different team and getting signed. The rest I either don't have getting signed or staying with their team, and that's the one that I think will switch teams is Trubisky to the Patriots. I've seen plenty of articles and videos about Trubisky going to the Patriots, and I'm all in for it. I could see Belichick seeing Trubisky's potential, picking him up in New England, and taking New England back to the playoffs. What do you think?
yeah. I mean, he's definitely not coming back to Chicago, at least I think, in my opinion. So the Patriots would make sense. He's kind of like attributes wise. He's obviously not on the level of, but attributes wise, he's kind of like Tom Brady. So I could see the Patriots trying to go for him. I still think they have too many holes on that team to probably be a playoff team if they do get him. But I don't really know who else would get him, so I could definitely see him going to the Patriots.
All right. Finally, the staying with the team. I have so much here to say. Um, Again, we are about 58 minutes through this thing. Just gonna rush through the stay with the team. Tell me if you disagree with anything. I have the football team keeping all their quarterbacks. I have Cowboys keeping Dak, Winston staying with the Saints, Big Ben staying with the Steelers, Drew Lock staying with the Broncos and playing their starter. Teddy Bridgewater staying starter in Carolina, and the Eagles keeping both of their quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree with all this. I think Washington might pick up somebody else, but overall, when it comes to the current quarterbacks, I think they all stay with Washington.
That's yeah, that yeah. Anyways, key free agents: Cam Newton, Jacoby Brissett. I think they both go unsigned to start the season at least, but someone will end up picking them up sometime in the year. Injuries, you know how they go. Anyways, we got to get through this. The Q&A, the 5 questions. We're gonna save the questions with names for the first, or we're gonna save the questions without names for last. We're gonna talk about the people who submitted names first. First, we got Timmy telling or asking us who's the best quarterback currently in the NFL. Currently, 2020, Aaron Rodgers was obviously the best quarterback in the NFL. But if we're talking like talent-wise and who is who's the best quarterback, like not most valuable quarterback, best quarterback is Mahomes. Um, he's got just too much talent. I mean, man can really do anything at the quarterback position. So I personally think Mahomes is the best quarterback right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this past season it was Aaron Rodgers, but I think in this upcoming season, I think it's really down to two players. It's Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. I think Watson kind of proved himself uh, this past season, especially with the lack of things he had around him, and he still led the league in passing yards. So if he can get on a good team, I think it's going to be down between Mahomes and Watson this next upcoming season.
I could see that as well. Um, Next we have Hudson asking, and this is the last named one. He has asked us, how do you think Mahomes performs under pressure against Brady in the Super Bowl? And by that, I assume he means you're playing a guy who's played in 10 Super Bowls now. So how does that pressure feel? I think Mahomes does play well. The pressure is definitely going to be there though, and this might change by next weekend. So don't quote me on this, but right now I think the Bucks take the Super Bowl. But that might change. I might think about the Chiefs because I haven't went into a deep analysis about the Super Bowl yet. So we'll see. But yeah, I think the pressure's definitely going to be there, but Mahomes still plays very well.
Yeah, I think Mahomes probably outplays Brady in the Super Bowl. just because of the talent difference, but there's definitely a chance Mahomes doesn't have a great game, especially with that Buccaneers pass rush. If they're able to get to him against that weak Chiefs offensive line and offensive tackle group, I do think he's going to have a better game than Brady this upcoming game, but there's a chance that the Buccaneers are able to force him into some interceptions.
Yeah, there's a big chance. Either way, we have three more questions here with a minute and an hour and a minute here through this podcast so far. Obviously this is longer. I still have three questions left. Um, what is the future for the Chicago Bears? I mentioned this to you before. Might as well mention this to the viewers. I think, obviously, I said earlier, quarterback. They will take Trey Lance in the draft. Now you got a lot of cap space issues. If you want to make some big moves, I think they cut Bobby Massey and Buster Screen as well. And if Graham doesn't retire, possibly cut him as well. That might save you 20 million cap right there. So, um, also let Allen Robinson walk. He's clearly been unhappy with Chicago. Um, I don't know if you bring him back, it might just be a bad idea, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but it also saves a lot of cap room for you right there. Um, if you re-sign him, you might not have any other cap space, so might as well re-sign. And then they with the walk of A-Rob, sign a big name free agent. Personally, I don't think this is truly big name just yet, but Taylor Moton is a great option for the Bears. Um, I swear, Bears fans are not going to know who this man is when they sign him. When they sign him to like a 5-year, $70 million deal, they're gonna be like, "Who is this man?" But he is a great offensive tackle. Last season played with the Carolina Panthers. He's a young guy as well, so I think he's actually coming off his rookie contract. So when it comes to Moton, I would say sign him to a big deal. Lock him up as your best offensive tackle. Maybe even a replacement for Massey. I'm not sure which side Moton plays on, but maybe your Bobby Massey replacement right there. And then finally, you got to make your extensions. My two big extensions are Cairo Santos and Brent Urban, and then obviously make a bunch of depth extensions as well. What do you think?
I think the Bears got to go one of two directions, right? I think they go all out, try to get a great QB, like maybe Deshaun Watson can do that, but I think they can go out and get a great QB, make them a Super Bowl contender. Either that, or I think they do need to start like not a rebuild, but I do think they got to start maybe getting rid of some of those huge contracts on their team that really just haven't been benefiting them as much as they thought they would. Bobby Massey, you said earlier, I think Robert Quinn was a bad signing. He's getting paid too much money. Akeem Hicks is getting old. He was great last season, but could definitely consider getting rid of him. Danny Trevathan as well. So I think some of their younger guys that they're going to have to pay in the future, and maybe try to go all out and get Deshaun Watson. Either that, or get rid of some of your big contracts and maybe start a small little rebuild.
That there is two options. The Bears could either become immediate Super Bowl contenders if they truly wanted to, or they could rebuild. So we'll see which one they take. Um, Now we have two more questions on the second to last question. Feelings over the Bills Chiefs game. I kind of touched on this earlier. I believe it was a very entertaining game, but it could have been more entertaining if Allen played good. But it was a good game overall to me.
Same here. I didn't watch, I think, the fourth or third quarter of it, so I stopped watching the game, but I think it just shows how much and how talented the Chiefs are. They kind of coasted in the regular season. People underestimated them because of that, but they showed how great of a team they are this postseason, and they should be Super Bowl favorites in the game.
Mm-hmm. Now I just wanted to say this. I kind of forgot to say this earlier, just because I want to see your reactions to this. But what do you think about Josh Allen for getting fined more money than both of the offensive tackles?
Really?
So Josh Allen got fined $15,000 for throwing the football at Okafor, and the offensive tackles got fined $10,000.
I mean, I could see it. He started the fight kind of, but I don't know.
Overall, I
Overall,
don't I honestly, at first, didn't even know if that was an accident or not. He kind of just he wasn't even looking when he threw it, but I think he assumed he was there. So
Yeah.
yeah, just wanted to see your
Not.
reaction on that.
I think he was just frustrated with how the game had gone, so he kind of just threw the ball at the guy's head, and then
Yeah,
it's a fair fine, but overall, that really isn't too much for any of these guys. They're getting paid millions of dollars, so.
yeah. Now our final question before we have our outro, plus me trying to show you guys what bad cards I got from the rookies and stars. But um, where do the Packers go from here is our last question. Now, again, I touched on this earlier, but I think they should definitely extend Rodgers, give him the contract he wants, and then fill holes like the cornerback 2 position and the slot receiver position.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, they just got to go all out. I think you got a couple more years left with Aaron Rodgers. I said out of the three corners you mentioned earlier, I said they should get William Jackson. If they can afford him, why not go for a guy like Allen Robinson? They need another great receiver on their team. I think Allen Robinson, when he first hit free agency, he was between the Bears and the Packers, and he chose the Bears. Obviously, that wasn't the right choice. I think if he goes to the Packers,
Kind of a
I
dumb
mean, that could
decision,
be.
honestly. So yeah, those are all the questions we got. Thank you guys for sending them in. We'll see how much we get for the third episode. But before we get to the outro, I want to show you guys what I got from the rookies and stars. So fun fact actually, if I'm being honest, the best card I've ever ripped from rookies and stars is when I got it for $4 packs on retail. Very, very sad. But when you go through all of my cards right here, all the loaded cards, this is the only one I pulled. A Joe Burrow Rookie Rush. And Rookie Rush they're very they're not the best product, or they're not the best not product. The normal rookies are worth more than the Rookie Rush. Um And speaking of the normal rookies, I pulled this last time in the $4 retail packs. I pulled a normal rookie Joe Burrow. But let me just it should all be right here. Where did we cut off? Right here. So I sleeved up all of my rookies. So I'm not just gonna show all of them. Let me just get the ones that aren't really worth much out of here. Red Marlon Davidson parallel. Anyhow, let's go from worst to best here. So the worst out of these cards, Brandon Ayuk, Rookie Rush, red parallel. Then actually no, this is probably the worst. The red, this is a really cool card. That's why I sleeved it. Red and blue, or just a red parallel of Joey Bosa base card. It looks really cool with the blue, so I sleeved it because of that. Then Jerry Jeudy, just base rookie. Then Jalen Hurts, base rookie. Probably enough. Those two are probably worth like $3-4. And then, like a $5-6 Justin Jefferson base rookie. Then finally, the best card I got out of these packs. Drum roll, please. A $6 James Conner patch card. My mem card was a really common NFL authentic card of James Conner.
Yikes.
I spent $61 on this box. And the best card was $6.
Rough luck.
Yeah, tough pack, tough box. Um, I have never had luck with rookies and stars, so I'm probably never gonna rip their 2020 packs again. Anyways, that was the podcast. Andrew, thanks for coming on once again. Very much appreciate it. Anyways, again, this was a very long podcast. If you guys did stick this long, thank you. If you did like it, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. This is only the second episode with a lot more to come. And yeah, that was it. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace out.